Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about mental illness in books and why I think we should be reading more books with mental illness in them. So back in November and December, I took some time to read as many mental illness books as I could get my hands on, and it was a really interesting experience. First of all, I would suggest that you don't cram in 7 mental illness books in 1 month. It can get really depressing, and for a while I was overanalyzing every single one of my movements and every single one of everybody else's movements. There are 4 different reasons I want to discuss about why someone should read more books about mental illness, fiction or nonfiction. And the first reason I would like to discuss is the learning aspect of it. I know a lot of people aren't interested in learning, but if you read, I think you have more of an interest than the average person. But even if you are the average person who doesn't like to read a whole lot, if you can find a book that you enjoy that has educational value, then it can be great. And I think mental illness books can be one of the greatest potential genres, I guess, for that to happen, because it's interesting for a teen to read and they can learn something about their fellow peers and maybe about themselves, especially if this book has accurate info. There are definitely YA books and just books in fiction in general that you want to look out for that may not be accurate, and you'll probably want to look up to see what people think of it before you start reading it, if that is your purpose, to learn. But there are also a lot of books out there that do have accurate information. One that I found especially eye-opening, and I know has accurate information because the author has anorexia herself, is What I Lost. I didn't know anything about anorexia going into this, except for one movie I watched called To the Bone. It's a Netflix original, and that was also pretty good. But coming out of this, I felt like I understood the illness of anorexia nervosa, and that can be such a great thing. I don't understand why public schools make kids read classics for English classes. I feel like the point of an English class should just be to learn how to enjoy and appreciate reading, and not everyone is going to enjoy and appreciate classics, even if they should be. Not everyone's going to, because they are very dense reads. But if schools would just start including books that, like YA books that they know teens will love, then it'd be great. And mental health books, mental illness books, I think would be a great option for that. Why don't they do it more? I don't know. I did it for my school. I did it. Why can't other people do it? This reason isn't so much why just anyone should read a book about mental illness, but just people who have mental illness themselves. Unless the content could potentially be harmful, I think it would be great if they read more books, like more books about their own mental illness and from authors who have that mental illness themselves, because it can be really relatable and eye-opening and can show them that they're not completely alone in the world. I used to have social anxiety, and I didn't read any books about social anxiety at the time that I had it. And I don't know what would have happened if I would have taken more steps, if I would have taken the steps to be more open with people, or if I would have been happier or anything. But since then, I have read a few books that have been about social anxiety, and there are a lot of experiences and things that happen in these books that I can remember having. And it makes me really happy to realize that I was not the only one who was experiencing these things, and there are people out there who still do experience that, and I should be helping them as much as I can. Another reason why people should be reading mental illness books more often is just because the subject itself is not talked enough, especially mental health, not necessarily mental illness, but just the health of people's mind in general is not discussed or prioritized. And to me, my mental health is a huge priority in my life. Mental health issues can also kind of have a negative view on them, and if you need to go to a therapist for any reason, you're like weak or something and you're crazy. But really that's not the case. Therapy can be good for just pretty much about anyone, because I mean, we all have our own problems and our own issues. Yeah, some of them are bigger than other people, that doesn't make the smaller ones any less damaging to your mental health. I feel like if people read more books about mental illness and mental health, specifically in this case, nonfiction books, they would come to realize that their mental health is very important. And also, sometimes even the most normal, stable people can still have a bunch of problems and could still need some help every once in a while, even if it doesn't look like that on the outside. And the last reason, and in my opinion the most important reason, is just read mental illness books for empathy. About a quarter of the world has some sort of mental illness, which means you probably know you yourself have a mental illness, or someone you know has a mental illness and either needs help for it or is getting help. As I've already stated earlier, reading these books can help you understand what a mental illness is, and beyond just the factual thing, knowing the facts and stuff. You can also read these books to understand what it is like to have a mental illness. Several of the books I read, I ended up through the reading it and the story, I ended up understanding the mental illness that I was reading about so much more, because I was able to put myself in the character's shoes and understand the symptoms they had and why they couldn't just get over it. Mental illness is a sickness that comes from your brain literally not working properly. There are functions that don't work, and because of that, you have these symptoms and these problems that other people can't really relate to. And a way for people to relate to that can be to go and read these books about mental illness and get into the mind of someone who has one. And that really is the judge when it comes to whether a book about mental illness is a good one or not. If everything is accurate information and it can make the reader understand what it's like to live with this mental illness, then that book was extremely well done and has fulfilled its purpose. OCD is a mental illness that a lot of people get confused on what exactly it is, and I was kind of confused myself. I knew that what I thought was wrong, but I didn't know exactly what it was until I read Under Rose-Tainted Skies by Louise Gournall. And this book deals with other mental illnesses, but OCD is the one it did really well. And I mean, I can't judge that because the author has all three of the mental illnesses that are represented in this. The one that I understood the best was OCD, and I came out of it understanding what OCD looks like and feels like. By the way, I would recommend this one if you want to learn about OCD or agoraphobia or anxiety. Another OCD book I would recommend is Every Last Word by Tamara Island Stone. It's really good also. Those are some of the reasons I think people should be reading more books about mental illness. And honestly, there are a lot more that I could be talking about, but I'm not, because it would take a really long time. But if you are intrigued now, you should go look up some books about mental illness and buy them, put them on your shelf, and read them soon, eventually. If you would like some suggestions, I got some here. A nonfiction book about mental disorders that I really liked was The Naked Lady Who Stood on Her Head by Gary Small. I would also recommend, and I'm not going to talk about this one because I've talked about it a lot, but A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Bernard. This represents social anxiety so well. It's accurate, and anxiety also, it's very accurate. And I don't know about the selective mutism. I've never had it myself, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is very accurate. There's also What I Lost if you want to read about anorexia. Another eating disorders book is Paperweight by Meg Haston. It deals with bulimia. The interesting thing about this book is that it shows that not all eating disorders look the same. I've got a few more mental illness books I'm hoping to get to this year, like Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I definitely have to get to that one. Looking for Alaska, also I've heard has some sort of mental illness stuff, so I'm curious about that. Also, Everything All at Once, A World Without You, and My Heart and Other Black Holes. Those all sound like really good books, and I'm curious. If you guys have any other recommendations, let me know in the comments. Also, subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and let me know what mental illness books you have read. And I just started a Goodreads account. My old one was outdated and I wasn't using it anymore. So I'll leave a link in the description for my new Goodreads account, and you guys can come follow me if you want. I'll see you guys later. Bye.